Why did Gypsy Rose brutally kill his mother? Let's find it. When a family member falls ill, it is natural for all the people in the household to become worried. They start taking care of the sick member, and they do not find peace until the person recovers completely. This behavior is especially true for a mother. If her child falls sick, she will go to great lengths to ensure their well-being. This story is about a mother and her child, Gypsy, whose life was full of challenges. Gypsy's mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, was born in Louisiana to Claude Anthony Sr. and Emma Geese Claire, along with her 4 siblings. Claudine was a brave child. When she was 24 years old, she met and fell in love with Rod Blanchard. A few months after falling in love, Claudine discovered that she was pregnant, and they decided to get married. They knew their daughter was going to be a baby, so they thought of a name for their daughter, and they named her Gypsy Rose. However, their relationship was short-lived, and Rod divorced Claudine before Gypsy was born. Claudine gave birth to Gypsy on July 27, 1991. Initially, Rod lived with Claudine and Gypsy, but Claudine later moved in with her parents, taking Gypsy. Gypsy's childhood was full of struggles. At just 3 months old, she had trouble sleeping, and Claudine suspected Gypsy of having sleep apnea disease. Although the doctors found no evidence of this, Claudine was convinced that her daughter had some disease, arguing with the doctor about the subject. As Gypsy grew older, Claudine became convinced that her daughter was mentally very weak. She was not like the children her age or the children in her school. She was totally different. Her grandparents, who adored Gypsy, looked after her when Claudine went to work. So once, when Gypsy was about 7 or 8 years old, she was riding her grandfather's motorcycle and she had an accident. Because of this accident, her knees were scraped, and Gypsy started using a wheelchair because her spine and legs were no longer working due to the accident. Before this major accident, Gypsy used to have minor illnesses, but as soon as she got into a wheelchair, her life started to get worse. She could no longer go to school and her friends started to avoid her. Gypsy was very sad and depressed. She used to sit in her room all day and cry. Claudine was very worried about her daughter and she tried everything she could to help her. She took her to different doctors, but no one could help her. Claudine used to participate in many events with Gypsy, be it the Olympics for the disabled or reading events or pop conventions. And by participating in so many events, Gypsy was becoming more and more famous for her passion and personality. If you look at Gypsy's photos, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Gypsy had no hair on her head due to cancer treatment. Her teeth fell out. Her physical and mental development was slow. She was very weak and fragile, and she could not breathe properly. So he needed 24/7 oxygen cylinder support and could not eat properly. So he was also fitted with a feeding tube. He could not run or walk or play with other children. But despite all these struggles, Gypsy was always smiling, which is why people liked her so much. If someone mentions his name in society, the first thing that comes to mind is the Gypsy smile, not that he was disabled. People also liked Claudine very much because Claudine now devoted all her days to Gypsy, taking care of her. And to do this, he resigned from his job. On August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana. The hurricane was so powerful that many people's homes were destroyed, and one of those homes was Claudine and Gypsy. Their entire home was uprooted, and all of Gypsy's medical records were destroyed. So after Hurricane Katrina hit, Claudine decided to take her daughter to Missouri, USA. And after moving there, Claudine changed her name to Dee Dee. And because of the NGO in Missouri, Claudine was called Claudine, meaning Dee Dee. There, Diddy and Gypsy also found a new home, and this house was also called the Pink House by everyone. Not only that, Gypsies also went to Disneyland many times with the help of NGOs. It didn't take Gypsy long to become famous in Missouri. She was liked by everyone there too, and every house in their neighborhood knew about Gypsy's mental and physical disabilities, which is why the entire neighborhood was always ready to help Dee Dee. Dee Dee is Gypsy mother, Claudine. Gypsy had also made a friend in the neighborhood, whose name was Alea Woodman. Alea and Gypsy were very good friends, and they used to spend a lot of time together. Alea's mother, Christy, also liked Gypsy very much. Christy used to help Dee Dee a lot in taking care of Gypsy. In 2014, Gypsy, who maintained 5 separate Facebook accounts, confided in her 23-year-old neighbor, Alea Woodman C., revealing that she and Nick engaged in online flirting with BDSM elements, which Gypsy claimed was more of Nick's interest. Initially considering herself a big sister to Gypsy, Alea later discovered they were similar in age. Nick and Gypsy even discussed eloping and had chosen names for potential children. Concerned, Alea tried to dissuade Gypsy, fearing she was too young and possibly being manipulated by a sexual predator. She viewed Gypsy's plans as mere fantasies and dreams, believing they would never materialize. Despite Dee Dee's attempts to restrict Gypsy's internet usage, going as far as destroying her phone and laptop and allegedly locking her in a shed, Gypsy maintained contact with Alea, who saved printouts of her posts until 2014. The following year, Gypsy arranged and paid for Nick to meet her mother in Springfield. Her plan was for him to coincidentally encounter them at a movie theater, both in costume, and to strike up a relationship with Dee Dee present. When they finally met in person in March 2015, while watching Cinderella, Nick claims Gypsy led him to a bathroom handicap stall where they had sex. However, Gypsy disputes this, stating they did not have sex and that Nick was unable to get erect. Despite this discrepancy, they continued their online interactions and began developing their plan to kill Dee Dee. On June 14th, Dee Dee's account started publishing some strange statuses. First status was that pitch I slashed that fat pig and rapped her sweet innocent daughters. Her scream was so fucking loud, lol. After seeing concerning Facebook statuses posted from Dee Dee's account, the Blanchard's friends suspected something was amiss. When phone calls went unanswered, several friends and neighbors went to the house. While they knew that the two often left on medical trips unannounced, they saw Dee Dee's modified car still in the driveway, making this unlikely. Protective film on the windows made it hard to see inside in the low light. No one answered the door, so the gathered friends called 911. When the police arrived, they had to wait for a search warrant to be issued before they could enter, but they allowed one of the neighbors present to climb through a window, where he saw that the inside of the house was largely undisturbed and that Gypsy's wheelchairs were all still present. When the warrant was issued, police entered the house and found Dee Dee's body. Someone stabbed her to death. Seeing this condition of the Dee Dee, the neighbors were very scared, and Gypsy was nowhere to be found in the house. Police did not waste their time and started investigation. Woodmansey, who was among those gathered on the Blanchard's lawn, told police what she knew about Gypsy and her secret boyfriend. She showed them the printouts she had saved, which included his name. Based on that information, police asked Facebook to trace the IP address from which the posts to Dee Dee's account had been made. It turned out to be in Wisconsin, and the next day, police agencies in Waukesha County raided Nick's home in Big Bend. Nick and Gypsy surrendered and were taken into custody on charges of murder and felony armed criminal action. The news that Gypsy was safe was greeted with relief in Springfield, where she and Godejohn were soon extradited and held on $1 million bond. But in announcing the news, Greene County Sheriff Jim Arnott warned, "Things are not always what they appear." The media in Springfield soon reported the truth of the Blanchards' lives, that she had never been sick and had always been able to walk, but her mother had made her pretend otherwise, using physical abuse to control her. Arnott urged people not to donate money to the family until investigators learned the extent of the fraud. An unsealed search warrant showed Gypsy describes her mother's murder to the police. After receiving stolen money sent by Gypsy in the mail to purchase a bus ticket, Nick returned to Springfield in June 2015, arriving while Gypsy and her mother were at the ER to have her feeding tube replaced. After they had returned home and Dee Dee had gone to sleep, he went to the Blanchard house. Gypsy let him in and allegedly gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife with the understanding that he would use it to murder Dee Dee. Gypsy hid in the bathroom and covered her ears so that she would not have to hear her mother screaming. Godejohn then stabbed Dee Dee 17 times in the back while she was asleep. Afterward, Nick claimed that the two had sexual intercourse in Gypsy's room and that she also performed fellatio on him. Gypsy alleged that Nick had raped her and that the sexual activity was non-consensual. She alleged that Godejohn told her he would rape her because she did not allow him to rape Dee Dee before the murder, as he had previously fantasized about. Gypsy said that she had called out for help from her deceased mother during the rape. They took over $4,400 in cash that Dee Dee had been keeping in the house, mostly from Rod's child support checks. They fled to a motel outside Springfield, where they stayed a few days while planning their next move. During that time, they were seen on security cameras at several stores. Gypsy said at that point she believed the two had gotten away with their crime. They mailed the murder weapon back to Nick's home in Wisconsin to avoid being caught with it, then took a bus there. Several witnesses who saw the pair on their way to the Greyhound station noted that Gypsy wore a blonde wig and walked unassisted. After the disclosure of how Dee Dee had treated Gypsy, sympathy for her as the victim of a violent murder quickly shifted to her daughter as a long-term victim of child abuse. While the charge of first-degree murder can carry the death penalty under Missouri law or life without parole, County Prosecutor Dan Patterson announced he would not seek the death penalty for either Gypsy or Nick, calling the case extraordinary and unusual. After her attorney obtained her medical records from Louisiana, he secured a plea bargain to second-degree murder for Gypsy. She was so undernourished up to this point. During the year she was in the county jail, her lawyer told BuzzFeed that she had gained 14 pounds, 6.4 kilo, in contrast to most of his clients who typically lose weight in that situation. In July 2016, she accepted the plea bargain and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Friends, if you like this true crime story, then definitely subscribe to the channel and support it.